Luminescent paints are exciting because they offer that little surprise when the viewer moves to another angle, a little shimmer or shine that you did not expect. There are a lot of ways to get to it, from gold leaf to special inks, and then to weird interference paints. And these are really weird because you can see the color on black and dark colors, but not on white. And then finally to luminescent paints, which are basically paints that shine without heat. Think about that. And those include iridescent paints, pearlescent paints, and interference paints. And I've outlined the differences in the attached notes on the card party section of my Patreon channel. There's also an in-depth description and a link to Jackson Art, just in case you're one of those techies that really wants to know the chemical difference. The best way to test luminescent paints is on black paper. And what you're looking for is it smooth? Does it move easily on the paper? And this is just regular paper. So on watercolor or watercolor ground, I would expect it to be a better performance. But these are beautiful. This is Daniel Smith, and they really do a good job. You're also looking for how big the little pieces of mica are. Now, very few of them use true mica anymore. It's all manufactured. But I'm also looking for opacity to see how that will work in any kind of light. Now, generally, these will not shine unless the light is showing right on it and bouncing off. So far, it's beautiful. Next, I'll show you the Yasumoto. The Yasumoto paints are in a pan. There's a benefit to this because if it's a tube paint, you have really got you've got to love that paint because there's quite a bit of it. This same thing is not so much true. There's not as much paint in the pan paints like this, especially because these little wells are pretty thin. But look at the wide range of paints that you have. Now, I am pretty happy with that, but I'm not happy with how thin the paints are. You see, they don't cover quite as well. This, by the way, is about $6 at a regular craft store. Again, not as the covering isn't quite as good. Actually, it's not very satisfying, to be honest. The Daniel Smith paints are about $30 for 6 tubes. This being $6 for these paints, to be honest, I just would not go there. And next is Soho. I think you'll be surprised at this. This is the Soho palette. It's also $30, just like the Daniel Smith is. But look at the number of paints that you have, and I think you'll be happy with, if I can open it, you'll be happy with the the coverage of it. One thing I want to show you about this is that it has 2 different golds. This one is very similar to the Daniel Smith gold. It covers easily and the mica is pretty thin. But look at this. This is also one of the golds, and if you really want to have a bright shine, this will give you that option. Pretty interesting, right? Antique, bright. And then you have an option of several other colors, which you might want to use for accents, and so you may not want to buy a whole tube of it. As you can see, if I were to go one way or the other, I probably would go with this Soho thing, available at Amazon. All right, obviously I'm having trouble figuring out what cool color to put on here. Isn't that great? All right, so I have others, the Winsor Newton medium. This medium, I'll talk to you about that a little bit later. So I just went ahead and went straight down all of them. I do want to show you something. If the paper or the painting is not directly reflecting light, the colors will dull. And why that's cool is because when you make a card, it just looks like it's a nice yellow until you look at it from a different distance and a different view, and all of a sudden that color just pops out at you. We'll be doing one of these. Before you make up your mind on any of these paints, you can do once you've done what it looks like on black, it also makes sense to try it on a white color. And now you have the opportunity to mix them and see how they go together. Does it look like something you would be pleased with? And it gives you a chance to practice the different colors together, to say, I think I'll try something different next time. First, we'll start with the dragonfly. This one was done with the Soho paints, and this one was done with the iridescent paints that I have from Daniel Smith. Both of them worked pretty much the same. They just happened to have different color combinations. You will find that the flow rate of both of these products is really good. Both the Daniel Smith and the Soho. So these small lines like this are easy to accomplish. There we go. Look how easy that was. Now this is an interference green, and it's a very light color. And I'm thinking I would like to give it some dimension. The nice thing about interference colors is that you can always add pigment from another source, from your watercolor source. So I'm just going to drop some in on one side. Just pretty cool, right? And then for the top here, I will just simply use a rusty color. It should look pretty nice here. And I will let it move into the green. Okay, that's good so far. For the black, I am going to use a micron pen and a Sharpie. The micron pen is going to be a 03. Now the reason it is so thin is because I do want to put in some, some, I guess they're veins, right, on the wings. But the rest of it can be a Sharpie. All right, so all right, so I do need to wait for this to dry, but you can see on this one, which I did with the Soho paints, you can see how thin the line was, and that was done after it was dry. A little bit different colors, but that's the fun of it, right? Butterflies are an absolute perfect thing to paint with interference, or not interference, luminescent paints. The big problem with with the Soho paints actually, is that even with this many colors, I'm thinking, gosh, I would like this to be a little bit of a warmer green, right? And as I mentioned before, you can use watercolors to change, to add to it, right? And also, it's pretty flat. So what I'm going to do, I have two choices. I can add a yellow luminescent paint and put it in here. Or if I don't have one of those, which would be this green color, I really love that Daniel Smith sap green. So I just may put some of that in this area right here and follow it in up here, and then put one of the luminescent paints over it. Now the reason that I'm doing this separately with separate brush strokes as I go along is because the brush strokes themselves are going to create the different sort of the veins. I don't need to put in veins in here. I don't even know if you call them veins. Let's see, and all the way up here as well. I'm going to lift some of this up just for fun. I like it that it's darker there. And then follow on with the same process on this side. On this next one, I'm starting out with a really dark red to give it just kind of a really strong background. And this is just plain watercolor paint, pretty thick. And we'll do the other side the same. And we'll darken it up a little bit more with black. This is all regular watercolor. So now it's time to make this little guy absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to use the luminescent paints for the edge here. Other side. Oops. Did not mean, it's better to wait till it dries, right? See if I can lift that up a little bit. If not, I can cover it after it dries. Well, actually, I meant to do that, right? because having variety in your color is a good idea, right? That's what I thought. Okay, good. All right, let's put some, they're not antlers. And there, he's done too. Isn't that fun? And butterflies, there are luminescent butterflies out there. Oh, it's a good idea to research that and create some new ones for yourself. So take a look at what happens here. If I put this interference paint on white, look what it does. Not much. Here, that's a gold, but let me put the red on. That'll really show you what's going on. So put the red on and not so great, right? Not too interesting. But if I put the red on black, take a look at what it does. Isn't that just fantastic? How's that possible? Notice on these dark green leaves, or these darker leaves, I really prefer the warmer green from Daniel Smith, the sap green. So as I mentioned before, I mixed it up with a pearlescent. And as it dries, it darkened up somewhat. And so I thought, all right, and that's because of how much the mixture that I did of the pearlescent with the green. So I'll just go back in and add some of this gold interference paint, and that lightened up the edges so that it would show up a little bit more. All right, so the rest of it is basically paint by number. I will tell you that you could get these patterns online at Etsy for $1.87. Yes, for all the alphabet. And I think that's kind of fun. It's kind of worth it. And you just download them and then just trace them onto black. And that link will be also in the attachment on Card Party. All right, so the rest of it's just, like I said, it's going to be paint by number. So I will probably not film it because you can figure this out, right? Let me know if that's a problem. All right, here we go. The last thing I want to cover is iridescent watercolor mediums. This one is by Da Vinci, and you can see how gooey this thing is. Get it on your hands, it stays for a while. What's nice about these guys, though, is that they don't have any color. So if you have a painting that you think, it could really use a little jazzing up, you could use one of these mediums right on top of it, and you can make sure that it's transparent. And it'll just make it look really kind of fun, a little bit of a surprise, which is what I think of these iridescents anyway. This one is a Winsor Newton, And it is, I think the mica on here is not as fine as it is on some of the others, and you can sort of tell that when you put it on. But it is also, I mean, that's not to say that it's a bad thing. Whoops, got it on there. So I'm just gonna put a little bit more, maybe make these guys a little bit brighter, just to make this painting a little bit more fun. You can also mix your colors, your regular watercolors, with these guys, with these mediums, and create your own colors, your own iridescence. They both work great. One is just a little bit, looks like it has honey in it, but they don't say that it does. All right, so I think that's just about it for this lesson. Let me know what you think.